What's up, guys? Today we're going to recap and discuss the Season 3 finale of Warrior titled A Window of Fucking Opportunity. If you're new here, this is how we do it. I go through the major character arcs for the episode, and then Damon goes through discussion points. Otherwise, holy shit, what an episode full of action from beginning to end. Let's get started. Now, I've typically always started with talking about the Hop Wei or the Long Zii, but I'm changing it up this time. We're saving the Hop Wei and the Long Zii storylines for the very end, and today I'm going to start with Toy and Strickland. It's nighttime and Strickland is sipping some whiskey and doing some villainous brooding when Nellie shuts the music off and shows up with a gun. Strickland calls her a whore and grabs his sword ready to defend himself. Give credit to the man, even in times of life and death, he still talks shit.
You're no different than the whores you so desperately long to save.
But Nellie then steps aside and shows Toy hooded up with a murderous look and sword in hand. Now, could Nellie have just shot Strickland and killed him? Yes, but that would almost ruin the revenge aspect. Strickland has inflicted horrible damage on Toy and Nellie's lives, so the kill needs to be way more satisfying for them. Nellie basically has the gun for insurance in case Toy loses, but there's no way she's losing. She handles Strickland with ease, landing a slice right in the first exchange. Unlike Lai, who was still inexperienced, Toy is fully developed with the sword. Her moves are cold and motionless, swift and efficient. She dices his legs up, then slices his throat open, leaving him crawling on the ground as blood pours out. Toy then slowly walks up to Strickland and stabs him in the chest, looking him deeply in the eyes as she tells him to say it. Bill and Leary show up and Nellie fires a shot that misses, maybe on purpose, but it helps Toy and her escape Strickland's manor.
Say, poor guy.
As Toy is cleaning Strickland's blood off of her face, she expresses sadness at the fact that she couldn't protect Lai, and remember, Lai saved her life during the vineyard fire episode. Nellie tells Toy that at least she avenged her death. It doesn't make Toy feel much better since there will always be bad men like Strickland around. Nellie tells Toy that she'll be here for her, and Toy breaks down crying in Nellie's arms. Man, it's been such a brutal season for Toy. She's just been losing people left and right with no wins to show for it, but seeing her murder Strickland was fucking awesome.
We got the death we were looking for, and look, I wanted Toy to get revenge and I wanted to see this dude die, of course. I just wish they built it up a little bit more during the actual fight sequence. A little more back and forth would have built the tension a bit more. Toy just sort of massacred him. The overall thematic takeaway might be that Toy was so into getting revenge and was unable to let go, which eventually incriminates her. Though thanks to Leary and Bill's Goodfellas routine, she lives to cut up scumbags for another day. A guy this powerful doesn't just disappear though. Very good chance that someone finds some sort of evidence at the furnace that they tossed him into, and a case is opened. I wouldn't say Toy is fully out of the woods yet, and she's still dealing with some heavy ass emotional trauma from the loss of Lai, but it's about time she caught a win. Does she rebuild and risk the heat in season 4? Or does she ride off into the sunset with Nellie?
Next up, we gotta talk Leary and Big Bill. And you know what? I'll throw Lee in the mix as well. But first focus on Leary and Big Bill since those two start the episode off together. Bill is at the Banshee looking at the dead bodies of the men Leary dispatched from the episode earlier. Colin Hughes got his fucking shit pushed in.
I think that's Colin Hughes.
But Leary is nowhere to be found. Bill, when he's not gambling and hammered, is pretty solid police though, and he puts together where Leary is headed. There was a recent explosion at Strickland's railroad site, and the dead man Colin Hughes was working for Strickland as a bodyguard. As Leary approaches Strickland's house, Bill intercepts him and tries to talk some sense into him. As this is going on, Toy is dicing Strickland into pieces. Now, Big Bill is one of the few guys Leary actually respects, so he's actually about to stand down, but they see a dead guard on Leary's front steps, courtesy of Toy and Nellie. This prompts them to investigate, and they walk in right as Toy is putting a stake in Strickland's chest. Remember, Big Bill has a relationship with Toy, so he immediately recognizes her. Nellie fires that shot, which might have been a decoy shot, which allows her and Toy to escape, and when Leary asks Bill, "Who the fuck was that?" Big Bill plays dumb.
Who the fuck was that?
Whoever it was, they're gone now.
This will be interesting now because Bill put away Zing as the Chinese swordsman back in season 2, and don't worry, we'll talk about Zing later in this video. Now, Bill was never fully convinced of Zing being the swordsman, but it didn't matter since Zing attacked Bill's family, so he had to go regardless. But after seeing Toy dispatch Strickland with ease, Bill is definitely going to have to reevaluate things again. So, after Toy and Nellie run off, Leary and Bill are left with Strickland's dead body. At first, Bill is going to call the rest of the force, but Leary stops him. With the railroad explosion, Strickland's dead attackers at the Banshee, Strickland's demise, and Leary's reputation as a gangster, it's not going to look good for Leary if Strickland's death gets out, even if Leary is innocent in this case. So Bill and Leary burn Strickland's body at our boy Horace's factory, and that spells the end for Douglas Strickland.
Wish death on me, Lord, I don't cry no more.
Later on, Bill is notified of the location of the plates by Lee and Mosley because they're about to conduct that raid. However, this happens to be at the ice factory in Long Zii territory. Bill knows that Buckley is involved with the Long Zii since Buckley gave strict orders for the cops to stay out of Long Zii territory. And since the mayor is technically his boss, Bill has to give Buckley word of the raid before Lee and Mosley conduct it. As Bill heads out annoyed, Mosley actually gives him some props in his own twisted way.
For what it's worth, I already like you better than the last guy.
Back to Leary, who's now taking some of the lessons that he learned from Strickland and starting to think on a different level. He invites the businessman Pierce, who he stabbed with a fork if y'all remember, to a meeting. Leary tells Pierce that Strickland's business is falling apart and soon his railroad contracts will be up for competitors to take. Leary will make sure that Pierce gets those contracts under certain conditions, such as hiring Irish labor and taking Leary on as a partner. Pierce has no choice to accept. Leary finna get rich, baby.
Wait till I give my money right.
Later on, Bill is hosting Lee and Abigail for a nice drink, and while the women chat, Bill has some homie time with Lee on the porch. At this point, Lee has gotten the plates back to Mosley, so his time as a temporary agent is over. Bill tells Lee that Horace has a job opening at the cement factory, and the two laugh.
There's an opening at the cement factory.
What Bill really wants is quite obvious, which is Lee back on the force as a cop, but Bill is trying to be subtle. This is game, ladies and gentlemen, take notes. Lee asks Bill if he thinks he can really change things as police chief, and Bill is honest and says he wants to but doesn't really know. This is enough to get Lee to be curious about being a cop again, and Bill manages to rope him back in. Officer Lee is back on the fucking force, baby. Let's finish this off with Lee real quick. He starts the episode with Mosley telling Bill that they're about to raid the ice factory in Long Zii territory. The raid ends up going off the rails, which we'll definitely discuss later in this video when we cover Assam's storyline. Lee survives the raid and successfully gets the plates from Assam, so his work with Mosley is now done. Mosley thanks Lee for what he's done and basically offers him a job, to which Lee politely declines.
If you ever find yourself in Los Angeles,
I won't.
Remember, Mosley essentially extorted Lee into being an agent, so Lee isn't going to want to work with that man. But give Mo some credit. He does say he'll take care of Lee's warrant once he gets back into office, so for now, Lee is scot-free. Lee also holds up his end of the deal with Assam and frees Yemi as well. As mentioned earlier, later on, Lee and Abby are on a double date with Bill and Lucy when Bill manages to rope Lee back into being a cop, and that's pretty much it for our boy Officer Lee.
Two things we learned about Leary today. First, that was absolutely not the first time he's had to deal with a body. Look at that calm demeanor. Second, he's now the most powerful man in town not named Buckley. The way he turned the tables and used some of Strickland's old tricks to move up the ranks was pretty entertaining, but let's hope he hasn't internalized too many of those teachings and that it's more a symbol of his future ambitions for the Irish working class.
Under the right conditions, I can make sure those contracts go to you.
Also, that scene with Pierce, he is absolutely terrified of getting forked again, and I can't blame him. Perfect guy for Leary to strong arm. We've mentioned it before, but this is the only way Leary can actually secure jobs for his community. The gangster routine is unbeatable for fight scenes, but those inefficiencies are clear. Plus, wouldn't a Sophie Mercer return in Season 4 with Leary having climbed the political ladder be kind of ironic? The only word of caution for Leary, aside from making sure that there's no evidence in that furnace, is that eventually someone else is going to come for that ring. He's no longer a small fish.
Heavy lies the crown, sort of thing.
Bill, man, talk about walking into a shit show. The guy went to talk his fellow short-tempered Irishman out of committing homicide and helped oversee a handoff turn into a standoff, and all he got as a reward was becoming an accomplice to murder and a spot in the hot seat from Mayor Fuckley. Fear not, my fellow Bill stands. We've got a Lee and Bill reunion cooking which pretty much wipes out all the bad shit. Give me this dynamic duo back immediately. At the end of the day, for all his flaws, we know Bill is a good guy and that he's the only chief who would remotely care about the residents of Chinatown. He's also got a pretty strong alliance with Leary. Those are the rules. Help a guy dump a body and he's in your debt for life. Lee, through the ups and downs, I kinda thought they would kill him at some point this season with him being so tied to the recovery of the plates. I'm glad my instinct was wrong. It often is. He gave us a nice character arc and predictably came back to the idea of joining up with Bill. Was it the kindness he showed Yan Mi, or the fact that Happy Jack's gang is basically defunct? We'll never truly know. But it's clear that he thinks he can do a bit of good now. So long, Mosley. Although, he did give us some pretty great one-liners here.
And now, on behalf of the United States government, I'd like to thank you for volunteering.
Alright, now it's time to talk Buckley. I know that I've been calling him Fuckley, but damn, I made a mistake. I should have been calling this man Cuckley this entire time, and we'll soon see why. Cuckley starts off the episode taking a stroll with his beloved Catherine Archer, and he decides to put a ring on it. Wow. He then gets the tip from Bill that the ice factory in Long Zii territory will be raided, so he calls Mai Ling aside to give her the lowdown on the raid. Buckley tells Mai Ling that he just saved her from being deported by calling her to meet him, so she's not present at the ice factory. He's pissed off though, since Mai Ling didn't tell him about the fake plates and the operation going down. If Mai Ling was truthful, Buckley would have taken his cut, but he could have also protected her. Since she hid the operation from him, now he can't help her. Buckley ethers Mai Ling at the end with this line,
For such an intelligent woman, you can be quite short-sighted.
That's it for Buckley. Now we gotta talk about Catherine Archer real quick and why his new name is Cuckley. We see a sex scene where Archer is enjoying some cunnilingus, but the man that surfaces is not Buckley, but it's his campaign manager, Stewart. The two of them shit on Buckley, and Archer shows off the fat ring that Buckley bought, most likely with the money from Blake's estate. There's a scheme going on here, which I'll have Damon discuss. Either way, the plan was for Archer to infiltrate and get Buckley to propose, and Stewart is in on it. We'll see what's in store, but it's a complicated situation because even though Archer is supposed to manipulate Buckley and simply use him, Stewart senses that she might actually be catching some feelings for the guy. Interesting twist in this saga, and shout out to the commenters who've been reminding us that they think that Archer was up to no good this entire time. Y'all the real MVPs.
Here's some real life game that would have helped our boy Buckley out a little while ago. If anyone ever goes through a dry streak, do not immediately fall in love with the first person who gives you attention. Buckley's about to find out this lesson the hard way. This was an abrupt plot twist. Some of the pacing of the stuff that went down in this finale was questionable, and there was a cheesy line or two in there.
Has anyone ever told you that?
It's come up.
But most of it was still pretty entertaining. Craziest scene transition has to go to Assam getting concussed by the dumbest cop on the force to this. Now what does he do? Does he even find out? Does he ditch her before the marriage? Unsure if prenups existed back then, so Buckley might just wind up finding out and doing something crazy. And what's Archer actually working at? Chen mentioned this earlier. She brought up Blake's estate specifically, and she's played Buckley like a fiddle all season. It could be some kind of a revenge plot with somebody else, like a Mercer pulling the strings, or Archer might simply just be after money and influence and the ability to extort Buckley in case he gains the power of actually being a governor. If you have any other theories, please drop it in the comments, we'd love to discuss. From a non-romantic point of view, this guy has next level political power now. Does he look for a new way into Chinatown now that Mai Ling has fallen so far? It seems like him sparing her means that he still has a use for her. Will he and Leary mesh together as closer partners without Strickland as the intermediary?
Okay, we've held off long enough. It's time to talk Mai Ling, who starts the episode off by paying Eliza Pendleton a nighttime visit. Eliza looks like she's seen a ghost when she sees Mai Ling, and she is obviously fearful for her life. Personally, I didn't think Mai Ling was going to kill Eliza. There's already way too much negative attention on Chinatown, and killing the wife of a well-known banker would be foolish. But we know Mai Ling, and she's both fluent in physical and psychological warfare, and for Eliza, she decides to use the psychological warfare part. She tells Eliza that it's obvious her husband Bernard is a serial cheater, and since he owns everything and she owns nothing, Eliza can't do anything about it other than let him fuck her and accept it, even if she hates him and hates herself deep down. Mai Ling plants the seed of murder in Eliza's head by handing her a knife before she leaves, maybe even potentially a murder-suicide. Who knows? Mai Ling likes those 2-for-1 deals. Mai Ling is then saved from being deported by Buckley when he calls her away from the ice factory, but we're unclear what their relationship will be like moving forward since the power dynamic is greatly shifting in Buckley's favor. Mai Ling then loses pretty much all of her Long Zii guards who haven't defected yet when the Hop Wei launched the attack at the end of the episode. With a pistol and a knife in her boot, she manages to survive the attack, but barely. A bloodied up Assam rolls in at the end and calls her by her real name, Xiao Jing.
Yeah, a bit of a complex episode for Mai Ling. From that opening scene with Eliza, it was pretty clear that Mai Ling was deeply impacted by the scheme that douchebag Bernard pulled. We see that, in particular, the accusation of being a whore triggered some previous trauma as well from her earlier life, and I'm one of the bigger Mai Ling haters, but this aspect of her character is hard not to be sympathetic with. We also see her at her most vulnerable in the combo with Buckley, representing her loss of status with him, and in the final scene after she's essentially had to go Call of Duty Last Stand mode just to protect herself from the Hop Wei onslaught. That ending shot of Assam holding her, saying her original Chinese name, and the two of them clinging to each other as their luck has run out was pretty touching. But enough of that shit. We gave Bill the biggest comeback award last episode, but this might take the cake if Mai Ling can rebuild after being down 3-1. 85% of this city hates her, but she's still technically married to Yong, right? Maybe. Either way, her cons far outnumber her pros, and that won't be the last time someone tries to take her head off. Just please, please, please don't try to strike another alliance with Zing.
Okay, these guys have the biggest storyline of the entire episode, so now it's time to talk the Hop Wei, starting with the Ice Factory raid. As promised, Assam leads Lee and Mosley to the Ice Factory where Hong happens to be there. Assam didn't think Hong would be there, and as he's trying to get Hong to leave, things go south. Isaac and his gang show up, and now we have 4 factions there. The cops, the Hop Wei, whichever Long Zii members are still there, and Isaac and his gang. Guns are drawn and Assam walks in the middle of the standoff and drops the plates near Lee. However, one of the Barbary Coast boys has an itchy trigger finger and reaches for his gun as Lee walks towards the plates. Mosley is an elite shooter though, and he catches the guy reaching and just caps him. All out war breaks loose and damn near all of Isaac's boys get slaughtered. A few cops get slaughtered as well. Isaac tries to steal the plates but gets caught by Assam, who dices him with relative ease. Once again, another scene from the opening trailer of season 3. Assam hands the plates to Lee, who is pissed at first because he thinks Assam fucked him over, but Assam explains that he had no idea that the Barbary Coast guys would be there, and he tells Lee that he's held up his end of the bargain and Lee needs to do the same. Lee gives his word and he tells Assam to split before he has to arrest him. As Assam walks out of the factory though, he gets clocked in the head with a baton by Officer Harrison, knocking him out, which is a super important detail. Hong happens to be there though, and he knocks Harrison out and saves Assam and gets him out of there. Assam is knocked out cold for a few hours, which means he misses the meeting that he was supposed to have with Chao. When he wakes up, he sees the entire Hop Wei force mobilizing, and he finds out that they are launching an attack on Mai Ling since this is the perfect moment. Her forces are depleted, she had just killed the elders, so a lot of people in Chinatown don't respect her as much, soldiers are defecting, and even Li Yong is out. Young tells Assam that he doesn't need to come with them on this mission since no one should have to kill their family, but Assam needs to stay the fuck out of the way. This then prompts the ultimate confrontation between these two, which was bound to happen. Assam makes the choice and drops his Hop Wei jacket on the ground. The entire Tong then attacks Assam and he dispatches them fairly easily. When the soldiers pull out hatchets, the whole situation changes since this means they are attempting to kill Assam. Using nunchucks, Assam handles them easily again, and then it's just him versus Young and Hong. Young tells Assam that he would have done anything for him.
I would have done anything for you.
It breaks my heart watching Hong get involved since you know he doesn't want to fight Assam, but Hong is loyal and he's a goddamn soldier. Assam personally isn't fighting to kill, but Young is, and he pulls out his trademark dual knives. The fight is intense, but Assam is a way superior fighter to either of these guys, and he beats them both. During the fight, Assam pulls out the trademark Bruce Lee 1-inch punch on Hong, which is pretty fucking sick. Hong has Assam in a choke against the wall when Assam just breaks out the move on Hong's gut. Assam does get sliced a few times and stabbed in the gut by Young, but it's not enough to kill him. Young asks Assam if he really wants to die for Mai Ling, and Assam says not yet.
But are you really ready to die for her?
Hong attacks him again and Assam breaks his arm and unleashes a flurry of gut punches, which puts Hong down. The fight spills out into the street and Assam has a chance to kill Young, but he just knocks him out instead. Holy fuck, man, such an intense scene between these three brothers. The split was inevitable, and you always knew Assam was gonna choose family. Assam is completely mangled and he hobbles into Mai Ling's stronghold where she has barely survived the Hop Wei attack. He then holds a crying Mai Ling in his arms, and brother and sister are finally truly together again. Now, give credit to Mai Ling, she did keep herself alive, but if Assam hadn't knocked out all of the Hop Wei soldiers and Young Jun and Hong, she would have died regardless. That second wave would have destroyed her. So that's it for the Hop Wei. Assam is out and the split is now official. We knew this was coming, but damn.
Yeah, it's a shame to see the boys like this. Starting with Assam, he put on a clinic. Assam smacking up the entire Hop Wei reminds me of when Jimmy Bucket smoked the T-Wolves starting lineup with bench players during training camp. But while he won the battle, it seems like he lost the war. Yanmi's on a train to Sacktown, and he spent his entire sphere of influence in the process. In some ways, it was pretty touching to see the love and care he still holds for Mai Ling, even though she tried to murk him that one time. Somewhat of a strange call for the Hop Wei to make a move on Mai Ling in that manner. Here's where I'm coming from. It felt a little weird, pacing-wise, that they'd snapped to the decision to move on Mai Ling, but then also wait 2 hours to pull the trigger after Assam woke up. Like, why not just do it as Assam was passed out if you knew he wouldn't be down for it? In Season 4, if we say it enough times, then HBO is obligated to run it back, right?
I done the math. Checks out.
Does Assam try and build something from the ground up with Mai Ling, or is it all about his journey to Sacramento? Does Mai Ling go with him to Sacramento? We know he's not about the Tong life, but he's also essentially penniless, which presents obvious problems if he wants to start a new life with Yeonmi. For Young Jun, I might owe him a slight apology. As paranoid as this guy was toward the second half of the season, I guess he was right. The Yeonmi hate was mostly undeserved, but he had a good read on Assam and Mai Ling. It was pretty telling that Assam didn't want to kill Young Jun. Young Jun is his boy who just ended up on the wrong side of things. Does this become a mortal enemy scenario now? There were some nice parallels to what Young Jun had to go through with his own father last episode.
No one should have to kill their own family.
It looks like the biggest competition to Young Jun for next season might be Lee Tong, and that goddamn menace Zing is lurking too. Once his face heals up, he has a good case for top dog in the Chinatown power rankings, and I like that the writing crew kept his character alive. Jason Tobin has been dope, and his acting seems to get better each time he steps into the role. Hong, man. Talk about a nice guy who's been caught in the middle. Guy was acting like the kid whose parents just got divorced and now he has to choose a side during the battle for custody rights. He's the number 2 now. He'll have to step up in Season 4 to help provide stability for Young Jun as he also tries to balance his own life with Tong life.
Alright, I'm gonna finish this up with Yeonmi and Chao. Yeonmi gets freed by Lee and she runs home to apologize to her father. Her father is a typical Asian parent though, so you know how that conversation goes. He tells her, "You've shamed our family," and kicks her out. She tells him that he never allowed her to make her own decisions in life, and this was her making a choice for the first time. He says goodbye to her, and that's it. I remember the first time my mom found out that I smoked weed. Fortunately, it was right after I got a dope job offer during my senior year of college, so instead of doing the Asian parent freakout, she was suggesting ways to sneak fake piss into the test so that a pothead like myself could pass. What does this have to do with Warrior? Absolutely nothing. Yeonmi is then at the train station waiting for Assam, and since he was knocked out for several hours by Harrison, he misses the meetup with Chao and never makes it to the station since he has to take on the entire Hop Wei. Chao does arrive though with the duffel bag of cash that Assam had left him.
This is enough to get you started.
Yeonmi wants to go back to Chinatown and grab Assam, but Chao says don't be dumb. If she returns to Chinatown, she'll likely be dead. Take the cash and start a new life, and credit to Yeonmi, she does the smart thing even though her heart aches. She takes the duffel bag, gets on the train, and leaves.
I still hear your voice when you sleep next to me.
Alright, let's wrap this up with Chao. He's been waiting for Assam all morning, and since Assam is knocked out, he misses the meetup. Give Chao credit though, he's truly a good guy at heart. Instead of keeping the cash, he takes it to Yeonmi and gives it to her. But as Chao is watching the train leave, motherfucking Zing returns from the shadows and stabs him several times. Chao is bleeding out and left for dead. Is he truly dead? Cinema laws state that if you don't see a body, they aren't dead. I don't know. I am not qualified to make this call. But quickly on Zing. He's fucking back, baby. And you know what? Zing was a piece of shit in Season 2, but for some reason, I just miss him, man. I'm so glad to have this psychotic motherfucker back. Bill and Lee Yong better watch out next season.
But don't you worry.
Daddy's home.
Oh, and speaking of Lee Yong, I almost forgot. He does make a brief appearance in this episode, and it's one that makes my cold black heart feel warm and fuzzy. He's now running his own tong with some of the Long Zii defectors, including this dude who is once again fucking immortal. Lee Yong walks out in a plain white t-shirt with his soldiers behind him. It's a pretty hilarious and goofy ass scene because they're all doing the Lee Yong hands behind their back walk. You know what, honestly, like, this scene is fucking ridiculous.
And we close the chapter on this section of the Yeonmi saga. It was cool to see her actually get on the train to Sacramento and be on to a better, much safer life, because if she stuck around, she was cooked. Also, you know her dad's not going to do her any favors. I didn't really like that guy to begin with. Now she's off to Sacramento, so we think anyways, without Assam and not really having a timetable on when he's going to arrive here. All in all, I think they will bring her back into the fold in season 4 once we get there. It's very rare for one of Assam's love interests to actually make it through the end of the season, you know, not dead or in a sanitarium, so she's done pretty good work. Chao. He had a real quiet finale up until the last second here. All season he's made moves, paid the price, and moved on, and obviously it sucked. But it was poetic in a way that Zing stabbing him happens when Chao least expects it, yet it's from someone in his past who he rightfully screwed over. We all love Chao, he might be the best goddamn character in the show, but he's played a lot of games with people. Another horrible aspect is that if Chao can't pull through, he can never tell Assam what came of Yeonmi and where she went. If Chao's last act in the show is saying goodbye and giving cold hard life advice to Yeonmi as he helps to protect the woman who Assam loves, I might lose it. We've got an excellent cliffhanger heading into season 4. Also wild that they hid that Zing appearance right until the very end. That was some Undertaker shit.
How the fuck are you, Chao?
Lee Yong. Even if it was due to heartbreak, Lee Yong proves that sometimes it's better to just sit out a couple of hands and let everybody destroy themselves while you just kind of chill, thinking about your sadness.
Never mind, I'll find someone like.
He helped give us a great bit of comedic relief right as the episode came to an end with Lee Tong. Our boy finally has his own crew all to himself. When they all followed suit, taking the jackets off, and they started strutting down the street with a typical Lee Yong swagger, it was goofy, but man, it was kind of funny too. Just look at these guys. It's just like a coordinated dance attempt. He's in the driver's seat moving into season 4. He also looks appealing to the 6 companies for ditching Mai Ling the second she went full Cersei Lannister. Maybe this man is a leader after all. I think he'll hold the top position of power in Chinatown next season as a result of all that went down, but the Zing aspect is one to definitely keep an eye on. Hopefully we'll find out what happens with him next season when we see a huge role reversal in which characters wield power and which don't anymore. Come on HBO, do the right thing. Greenlight season 4. Do it.
Alright y'all, that does it for our recap of the season 3 finale for Warrior. It was a fun season, but with the way it ended, I'm now itching for a motherfucking season 4. However, there is this writer's strike going on, so who knows when it will happen. As members of the Warrior community, we all gotta do our part spreading word of the show. Moving ahead, we'll be doing some fight breakdowns, so stay tuned. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. It's been an awesome time making videos for y'all, and it's a privilege that you all enjoy it. Till next time.